Around now. What is up, everybody? It's the Survivor Buffs coming at you with another recap. Today we're doing a day after recap. Last week we did a day of or night of recap, and I'm glad to be back on the day after because I always need a little bit to process these episodes.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
not so much this episode because this was more of a lax episode than the merge episode, but still.
yeah. I like this one a lot. It's just crazy. Like the biggest thing that's sticking out for me right now is the fact that there's like so many people that I think could win. It's crazy. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I feel like Omar's definitely getting the winner's edit so far, but I don't know.
interesting.
And then this episode, I feel like it's a really good episode for Mike. And then other times I'm
hmm
like, wow, Jonathan's really sticking with it. And then shoot, even sometimes I'm like, are they gonna give it to Tori? Like, I don't know. It's like there is
Drea,
like. Drea, yeah,
Drea with the
Drea, big
four.
episode for her as well.
She has more bling than anybody has ever had at
Is that
one
official now?
moment. It's official. It's
It
official.
is official. And what's really shocking to me about that fact is that a lot of that bling is known to people, but I guess this cast is not taking the advantages as seriously as other people would. Because if I was on that island, I would be looking to take out Drea
Right.
because of how much stuff she has. Because she has a big pitch to the jury right now with her advantages.
Right. Yeah, for the longest time we were like Jonathan 0% chance, but on because I know it's like this is the season 41 and 42 are supposed to be like the woke seasons, but like and it's like are they going to give it to a white guy because of white guys have won it for so many years in a row or X amount of times over the past 10 years, but like how can if Jonathan makes it to the end? I mean, he's the greatest physical competitor in the show's history.
I
Single season.
mean, are you sure? Because he hasn't won immunity yet. I mean, with how
Yeah.
it's going, Tori's the most physical player we've ever had. I mean, 2 out of 2.
Well, if you also factor in um, the tribal challenges.
Travel challenges are great, but it doesn't matter if you can't get that necklace around your neck at that there at the end. That's what Jonathan's gonna have to do. Now, I
Yes,
mean, good for him. Maybe him not winning is lowering his physical threat level, but I don't know how you
true,
could have a lowered physical threat level with a body like that. Um,
true.
but still,
Yeah, I think like you said, Omer has a great chance. Drea, I guess Tori. Like if Tori can get to the end, all she has to do is be like, guys, I was at the bottom from the second we merged and still made it to the end.
that's
So
true.
she doesn't have to make any big moves. All she has to do is survive. If she can survive to the end, I think she could win. But also like um, Marianne has a good chance
Marianne's
of winning.
likable. I mean,
Mike,
is there anybody? Is there
I
anybody on this cast that you're just like they have no chance? Is there anybody?
I
Maybe
think
Romeo.
Romeo and Roxroy I think have zero chance, and that's
Right.
it.
I think
Last,
Roxroy might go home next episode. I think.
me too.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Roxroy and Romeo could go home next episode since it's a double elimination
It
episode.
could. It could very well be both of them. Yeah.
Dude, at the final, I want to. Do you have the our fantasy teams pulled up? I want. I kind of want to pull it up just to see who's left, so
Oh.
I don't forget anyone.
Yeah. 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 Let me pull it up real quick. Oh crap.
But like,
Okay.
I'm trying to. While you do that, I was trying to think like looking back on where we are now with season 41. But Sydney was the merge dude, and then it was Tiffany after Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
So of the people left after after that, I would say Nasir had a chance of winning. Evie, Shan,
Oh.
Ricard,
There we
and
go.
and I guess Erica.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it was like Shan was like the winner edit, I guess, at that point, but also Ricard and them too. It wasn't near as many as right now because I remember thinking Well, I thought Erica had no chance. I knew Heather didn't have a chance.
Hmm. But I mean, like there was people in 41 that had a chance to win, you know.
Right.
But if you're talking about people that you're like, oh, these people have a good chance of winning, like they're power players who have a good chance. Really, we were looking at Ricard, Xander, and Shan. That's really it. In the Seer, I guess, just because of how likable and how good of a story he has. But like, if we're talking like great players that have a chance to win, like I could see High winning. I could see Marianne. I could see Omer, Drea, Mike, Jonathan. I don't think Lindsay at this point, simply because of how invisible she's been on the edits. I could potentially see her reaching like being that like no vote finalist. Like I could see Lindsay being like at like or in like in fourth place sort of thing.
Maybe,
So
yeah. I think of Lindsay more as a zero vote finalist than fourth place because she's just invisible right now, being highly under edited, which is like we always say crazy because coming into it we are like, oh, Lindsay's gonna dominate because she plays like sequester and all this crap. But that hasn't been the case. So I mean, we got Jonathan, Mike, Drea, Marianne, High, and Omer. They're all like, I mean, they're all people I think could take it. Marianne probably at the bottom of that list, but still.
well, one thing I will argue is how about that one time in this episode when Marianne stepped out to give rose to her tribe, and when they all came together, she, even though she was the youngest person in that group, she was the one that stepped up and convinced Omer to um, to step out. So she, I think, the edit is showing her as like, oh, they're the annoying person. But when it comes time to actually like convince people and talk in front of a crowd, like I think she really has a chance to step up.
Yeah, yeah, she does. And I think Marianne's strong point is that like emotional manipulation.
Mhm.
Um, strategically, she has found an advantage. She is sitting on an idol. I mean, she is a threat.
Yeah, an idol that everybody knows about, but no one seems to really be bringing up. Definitely not as much as like. I
Well,
mean, really, it's weird. No one's idol. It's because the people that have idols are all in the majority, which is another
when
thing that's making this season so great.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the knowledge is power advantage was brought back, and Drea found it.
Right.
Which, by the way, I actually did like the way they did it this time. I don't like the advantage, but I like the way they went about it.
Right.
Um, which does that mean that Xander was sitting on the knowledge is power advantage?
I
Is
wanted
that
to
what?
ask you that.
Yeah, like is
I
that
wanted
what
to ask
that
you
means?
because I know when we talked with who did I think it was during our season kickoff show with Idle Out and Prettium and the specialists and Snuff and Coach Drew. We mentioned how Ricard had a theory that the advantage was actually not there and it was all done in editing, which would not have been hard to do. I was curious if you thought after this episode, did you change your mind on that or
I did change my mind. I think it
okay,
was there. I do think that the advantage was under the bench. I just think that I don't know. It was like rolled up differently than it was this episode. I don't know. It looked like it was a part of the bench more so than it did this time. But yeah, I mean, Drea said she genuinely stepped out of that reward challenge because she didn't like PB and J. I thought she was. I was like, oh my gosh, Drea, strategic god. There's something on the bench, but she actually just didn't like PB and J. But I mean, good for her for finding it. I'm not thrilled that the advantage is back, but I am. I did like the red-handed thing.
yeah, if we get her on the show, I know she said it in another confessional, but if we get her on this Survivor Buffs, which she has said she would come on, although people from 41 also said they were going to come on and still haven't. Card, I'm looking at you. Um, the one thing I will say about Drea is I don't know. I feel like that's such a weird reason to step off because okay, you don't like PB and J, but just you could just eat the peanut butter, or you could just eat the bread, or you could just eat the. There was also potato chips and drinks too. I feel like
She
it was
must
her.
not be too hungry. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
remember last episode she like almost collapsed.
mm,
Remember in that challenge. So I'm like,
I
clearly you're
know.
hungry. I don't know. I feel like it was a playing to the jury moments, which, if that's the case, was a dumb move. And speaking of dumb moves by Drea, why? And I was watching this episode with my mom, who hasn't seen any episodes this season. Even she mentioned it. Why didn't Drea go to the beach and wash the red stuff off her hands?
I have no idea. I could not tell you.
I mean, were you thinking the
Um,
same thing? She like poured some water and got some of it off, but like, just go to the beach. Just
I I
it's
mean,
right there.
even if you did get caught with a little bit of red on you, couldn't you just say you found a thorn bush? Like, chill. Like, I don't know. Like, blaming it on some paint that hasn't been opened yet, that is sus.
Right. I mean, like, I don't know because remember we do know that Dre is a fan, but the report on her is that she's like new to the show, right? If I'm almost
Yeah,
positive that Dre is
pretty
like
sure.
a new fan. Maybe hasn't seen all the seasons. Maybe doesn't know like the basics yet, you know? Or I'm
Right.
sorry, knows the basics, but doesn't know like the more advanced strategy. Because if that would have happened to someone like Adam Klein or someone like Tony Vlachos, no chance they would have been caught red-handed. Even though I will say I think they should have made the paint like almost impossible to get off because that was the negative is that you'd be caught red-handed. I thought that was a great idea. Um, but you either got to I feel like you either got to go all the way with that or not even do it, and they definitely did not go all the way. So yeah, Drea. I will say I do think her one thing with her is her adaptability. I think was strong here because Romeo was her. You know, her and Romeo were almost like the Shan and Ricard of this season. But clearly, she is willing to turn on Romeo because of how other people are perceiving him, and it's hurting her game. So props to her adaptability on that.
Yeah,
I do
props.
think overall Drea had a good episode.
Yeah, I think overall she had a good episode too. I don't understand her calling Romeo paranoid and other people calling Romeo paranoid because I mean, he's so clearly on the bottom. Everybody so clearly wants him out. I mean, what do you expect him to do? Just lay down and take it? I don't think
Mm,
that's paranoid. I just think that's playing the game. I mean, we saw what happened when somebody just lays down and doesn't do anything. I mean, she gets out. That's what happened to Chanel.
right. I know you spoke on winner's edit vibes earlier with Omer. I'll tell you, I got winner edit vibes from Omer this episode. The other person was Marianne. I mean, I feel like the whole thing with, her really establishing herself as the underdog. People have never liked me. I've never been a winner. It just, I was like, oh gosh. If
Really?
there
I
wasn't
thought that
other,
was redemption. I thought that
what,
was like the moment that was like, oh, I really found myself out here. Like I really became a complete, like that type of edit. And then you go home.
well, if this was her elimination episode, I would 100% agree with you. But she wasn't even like mentioned this episode as a potential person to go home. It was Chanel, Tori, or Romeo.
But yeah, because of the stepping down, she didn't get mentioned to get taken out. I guess because of Jonathan. I don't know.
Which
Is
is
that
funny
is
because in season 41 with the stepping down thing, no one was off limits. It was who stepped down. I don't even remember. I remember Ricard and Shan
I know
maybe.
Ricard did, and yeah, so did Shan, and no, I
Yeah, I,
think yeah.
I forget. I forget to step down. Um, but yeah, so I got winner edit vibes from Marianne. I'm not saying she's now my winner pick. If I had to pick someone now, which I wanted to ask you, like if you had to pick someone right now, who would you pick? And looking at the fantasy teams, if I had to pick someone, I would probably say Mike. I honestly think at the pace he's at now, Mike is having a top 10, potentially even top 5 greatest social games that we've ever seen in the history of the show.
Everybody likes Mike. I mean, nobody has a problem with Mike, and he
And
is playing slightly under the radar as well.
exactly. See, that's the thing is there's so many times like, oh, everyone loves this person. Everyone loves Christian Hubicki. Everyone loves blah blah blah. Everyone loves so and so. But it's better when everyone loves you, but nobody realizes that everybody loves you.
Yeah.
Like Kim. Like to me, Kim in um, One World is a top 5 social game ever played.
What I'm
Um,
noticing about Mike is that he's having these individual, like, strong, like, bonding moments with everybody. Like, I don't know
Everybody.
if you've noticed that. Yeah. But, like, it's not, like, so in your face like it was with Christian and other people who are just, like, so well liked by everyone. Like, some people probably really feel like, oh, yeah, like, Mike and I, like, we're the only people that have each other's back out here. Like, and I probably shouldn't talk about that with anybody else. Like that's what I'm kind of getting from it.
Right. If I would just want to say, like, to me, the perfect social game ever played is probably Natalie in Samoa because everyone liked her, but no one realized that everyone liked her to the point where she um, smashed through, and also like a perfect um, final tribal council smashed through what is still debated today by many as the greatest social game ever played, especially by a first time player. Um, but yeah, I think I'm real. Oh, another thing I wanted to bring up: Omer um, sitting out was super smart on his part. I feel like a lot of times this season, Omer has like I don't want to say gotten lucky, but he's putting himself in situations that end up being like exactly what he needed to do because he was
Mm-hmm.
0% chance to go home, but by sitting out, he hides himself as a challenge threat, which you've seen that he's he can hold himself in these challenges. Um, hides himself as a challenge threat. Now there's for sure no chance he's going home because they agreed, I guess, to not vote out the sit out people, and earns brownie points because he gave everyone rice. Like I'm not giving Omer my player of the week, but he had an amazing episode again.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Omer's consistently producing. There hasn't been a downward tick in Omer's stock yet. So and neither for Mike, either. So I don't know.
right. Do you? I wanted to ask before we talk about Chanel and close out here, but it seemed like what the edit was showing us was that it was Chanel, but then they changed it to Romeo because it was paranoia. But then Mike changed everyone's mind again last minute back to Chanel. That's what the edit made us seem like. We definitely have to ask Mike when he comes on. Um, like, did you really switch the vote, or like, because that's
Yeah,
what it
I
looks
don't
like.
know if that's what happened. I mean, from what we were presented, yeah, that's what happened. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but if that did happen, good for Mike.
I know. Um, so Chanel goes home, which was pretty much it would have been like Ricard going home last season. That was the biggest consensus winner pick. Not everybody picked her. I didn't pick her. I did it first before the press got released. I just used my pick with the leaks, but um, she goes home. She was on your fantasy team, as I'll bring up here. Your women's pick. You're not looking good here, but I do still think it's going to come down to the final
I
episode.
mean, look at the four I have, man. Are any of them gonna go home anytime soon? Nuh-uh.
Mm, that exactly like I
You got
yeah.
you got you got four who are on the outs on your team.
That's what I'm saying.
I
You've had a
do
bad last
think
2 weeks.
I don't think it's going to just be. I don't think it's gonna go. I don't think it's gonna be. Okay, so Tori's out next if she doesn't win. Then Marianne, then Roxroy, and then Romeo. I don't think it's gonna be just like 4 episodes where it's just boring and it's just like, oh, okay,
I
well,
don't think so
whoever's on
either.
the bottom is gonna go out. I don't. I
Not with
do
this
think there will
cast.
be a change. I do think there will be a change in power. I do think there will be chaos, but I still think I'm in a better position than you because I do think at least some of the people on the outside will go home. But I do sense a blind side, and I think it's gonna be a man.
Mm. So if you had to pick 2 people going home next week, I will say if two
I'm
people
gonna
are winning
stick with
immunity,
Roxroy and Romeo.
okay.
I don't
I
think
think it's
they
going to
can win
be
immunity.
I think it's going to be one obvious person and one not obvious person. I don't think the challenge threats go home because if 2 people are going to win, I think Jonathan probably gets his first necklace. I could see High winning, Drea, Tori again. If I had to pick, I'm going to pick. I think Roxroy stays because he's in the majority, but he's at the bottom and doesn't realize it. He's basically just being used as an extra vote every week. I'm going to say Romeo and Lindsay, or
Romeo and
Romeo
Lindsay.
and High, or Romeo and
Hmm.
High. I
That's
think we're gonna
bold,
get a
but that's bold. But I
blindside.
do think it'll happen. I really do sense a shift in power, at least a little bit.
Mm.
I do think Jonathan, Mike, Omer, like the 3 guys that I'm very confident about, I do think they will still find a way to stay in. But High could be in danger. Lindsay could be in danger. I agree.
Who's your MVP of the week?
I'm gonna give it to Mike this
Me too.
episode. Yeah, I think I don't really need to explain it because we've already talked about how
Based
good
on the
Mike did
edit,
already.
how could you not? How could you
Yeah.
not? And his social game was already probably the best one out, and he improved it even more with his connections with Omer and Marianne moments that we showed in this episode, and then from what the edit showed, he changed the vote his way. So how could you not give it to Mike? You didn't answer the question from earlier though. If you had to pick right now who's winning, who would you pick? I said Mike.
All right, I'll go Omer.
Nice. Cool. All right, guys. This was a short one this week. We're going to end it here due to time constraints on my part. So sorry about that. But next week, same thing. Recap and reaction. We're going to try to get guests. I think we might have guests for the rest of the time. Coach Drew and Emily from Hot Takes are coming up soon. Voce and Tiffany are coming up soon. We couldn't make it work this week. Sorry about that, guys. Going to try to get Libby from Ghost Island back soon. Carl from David and Goliath back soon. And then hopefully we'll have a very special guest for the finale. I go down maybe.
Oh yeah.
And Riley and Robin from Survivor Worldwide. So thanks, guys. Subscribe, like the video, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. The links to all of them in the description. Live long and prosper.